It is Wednesday, as we know. That's why we're together. And one of the things we look forward to the most on Wednesday is visiting with Fox Sports' lead college football analyst, Joel Klatt, who is with us. Joel, let's start with the rankings. What was your takeaway? Anything jump out at you in particular based on what the committee came up with last night?
Yeah, where's the Big Ten love? Like, what's happening when you look at the teams that were dropped furthest based on where they were in the AP poll? It's Big Ten teams. You know, Stanford's also dropped a little bit, but, you know, with Ohio State and Wisconsin kind of being the two there. Here's what it seemed like to me, guys. And listen, this is a subjective panel. That's always what I've thought is the worst part about the playoff, is that there's a subjective nature. There can be agendas. I thought that there was an agenda in the room to make sure that the win that Oklahoma had over Ohio State was rewarded. Now, they also knew that based on resume, they couldn't quite put Oklahoma in the top 4. Therefore, the highest you could put Ohio State is number 6, where when I watch them, and I've seen them 3 times now in person, Ohio State is one of the 2 best teams in the country. Hands down. When they're firing on all cylinders, I don't know if anybody can beat them, even Alabama, even Georgia. So that's the main takeaway I had, was that I thought that there was a clear agenda. I'm not disagreeing with it, you know, because I like rewarding kids for what happened on the football field as well. But there was a clear agenda that put Ohio State at number 6, and that's where the dominoes started to crumble.
Hey, Joel, but if we study the history of the committee, they're always on an agenda early in the year because there's nothing to lose and everything to gain. So they can reinforce, in my opinion, that head-to-head is important. I agree with you. I'm not sure that's exactly how they believe the teams are, but at the end, I think they always get it right. And so there's no reason to start this discussion that the committee's not looking at a head-to-head competition when it's one of the things they state they look at. So the Oklahoma-Ohio State game becomes less important as the season goes on and the video becomes more important. That's how I think they look at it.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Coach, and we've seen that play out. Remember, it was not long ago that we saw Baylor overtake TCU, but only late, you know, after TCU had lost to them. And head-to-head has always been an interesting one for the committee because we've seen instances where they haven't used head-to-head. Like last year with Louisville and Florida State. Same record, Florida State ended up getting the Orange Bowl berth because they were moved ahead of Louisville late in the poll system. So we'll see how they view that win for Oklahoma later in the season. Right now, it was the clear kind of a tiebreaker. It was a clear agenda setter for them. And we'll see. And you know what? Probably rightly so at this point because they don't matter yet. You want to make sure that you're honoring those games that are played on the football field. But one of the things that I also tend to have a problem with the committee is that they try to enforce schedules. And that's fine if you want to do that. And clearly that's why Wisconsin was knocked to the place that they were in this first ranking. But if you're going to knock Wisconsin for their schedule, then you got to knock Alabama for their schedule as well. And it's just predetermined that, well, Alabama's going to be up there in the 1 or 2 spot. Think about what you've got from a schedule makeup standpoint with Alabama football. Alabama actively schedules under most other teams in the major category of college football. When you look at the top 10 teams right now in the college football playoff rankings, they're the only one that has a schedule makeup of only 9 Power 5 teams, 2 Group of 5 teams, and an FCS. In fact, there's only 3 schools in the top 10 that play 9 Power 5 games: Notre Dame, Wisconsin, and Alabama. And of those 3, Alabama's the only one that also schedules an FCS. So if you're going to enforce schedules, do it to the tide as well. Let's just have some consistency.
That's a really good point by you, Joel. Let's backtrack a little bit and talk about this Ohio State team since that loss to Oklahoma, particularly J.T. Barrett going on an absolute tear. 26 touchdowns, completing 75% of his passes. You've seen this team, you said, 3 times, and you identify them as the top 2 team in the country at least. So what kind of growth specifically have you seen with the Buckeyes in this time?
Well, I think it's more from the individual in J.T. Barrett, and I'm going to take you a little bit behind the curtain because we get a chance to speak with these kids, as I know you do. And on Thursday, I had a chance to speak with J.T., and it was more at length than I have gotten in previous weeks that we've done their games. And it was interesting to me. See, I played a lot of football in college. I was a 3-year starter. I started a lot of games. This guy has played for a long time. James Franklin was like, hey, he's been there 18 years. He's been there a long time. And what can happen for a long tenured quarterback is that the fan base can kind of fall out of love with you, right? And they can pick at what they deem as your inefficiencies, what they want you to change, this or that. And he admitted to me last week that the noise or those criticisms, in particular with their fan base, and it can be a very passionate fan base, got to him the last couple of years. And because of the noise, he was forcing the football down the field in order to put to bed the narrative that he didn't go down the field. And he said he put the ball in harm's way, that the offense wasn't running as efficiently as it possibly could because of those decisions that he was making, trying to prove the noise wrong. Well, then he sat back and he said, I'm done with that. I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to play my game. And if my teammates are open, they're going to get the ball. Well, in the last 6 games since that loss to Oklahoma, he's averaged 9.5 yards per attempt, 22 touchdowns, no interceptions. You guys know the numbers. I think he's playing the best football of anybody in the country when you take that 6-game snapshot. And because of that, that's the reason I think this offense, this team, is one of the 2 best teams in the country.
Joel, I want to go back to the point you were making about Wisconsin. That is one of the teams. I mean, I think Ohio State would be the other one that people in Big Ten country were a little upset about in terms of where they came out as opposed to where they are, as you mentioned, in the AP poll. Is it fair to infer, based on what you said and the comparisons to Alabama's schedule, that you think that Wisconsin was treated unfairly?
Yeah, certainly. And Here's another point that we always make. When someone's undefeated, and I just did it to Alabama, so I'm guilty of this as well. Okay, I'm going to throw myself under the bus that then I'm going to jump in and drive over all of us as a media. As we say, who have they beat? They've beaten nobody, this or that. Well, let's be honest with ourselves now. Syracuse was kind of a nobody, and yet they beat Clemson. So shouldn't we, I guess the point is, shouldn't we honor the fact that Wisconsin has gone out there against the teams in front of them and taken care of business? Alabama's done that. Miami's done that to a certain degree, even though they've been in 1-possession games in the last 4 ball games against teams with a combined record of 11-20. But Wisconsin has done what they needed to do. And from that standpoint, that's where our sport has gotten to a point where I get frustrated. And the narrative is that there are haves and have-nots. And if you're beating the have-nots, it means that you're a have-not, even if you're going out there and taking care of business. So Wisconsin, for me, they're going to have a chance to prove everybody wrong. Here's the best part about the Wisconsin issue. Rev, this is why I don't think it matters much. If they're undefeated as the Big Ten champ, they're going, right? I mean, you can't keep them out of the playoff. Iowa would have gone, and I thought Iowa wasn't quite as quality a team as what Wisconsin is this year. I'm talking about a couple years ago, I believe, in that 15 season. So they control their own destiny. I firmly believe that, but I don't think they've been given the respect that they probably deserve.
Joel, I have to disagree with you. I mean, I've studied them on tape. I have to tell you, I don't think they're playing very well right now. I know they're undefeated, but they're constantly getting off to slow starts. Hornibrook, who I think has really improved. You know, every once in a while, it's this random interception. You kind of figure, why did he throw it? I don't think that they've been tested enough. I think the worst thing that's happened at Wisconsin is their schedule. I'm not saying they wouldn't still be undefeated if they played a tougher schedule, but I believe they'd be playing better. They don't have to play very good right now to win. That, to me, that's the problem. I agree if they, and I love the Wisconsin program. I love Paul Chryst, so I'm not trying to down the program. I'm just saying I think Paul Chryst is watching that tape with a clicker, and he's saying to himself, man, we're not close to how good we can be. And I think it's a product of the schedule.
Coach, let me lack of better judgment, I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit. You said the worst thing that happens to them is their schedule. Well, isn't the worst thing that happened to them that all of a sudden BYU fell off the face of the map? Right, in 2012, when that game was scheduled, BYU was a 10-win team. So that's a bit out of their control. Now, I would also say that the worst thing that's happened to Wisconsin is the style in which everybody else wins. We've become accustomed to everyone winning by 20 and 30 points in college football. So if you don't do that, all of a sudden you're not passing our eye test, when the fact remains their blueprint for success. And I'm not going to disagree with what you're saying. Have they been totally clean? No. Have they been perfect? No. If I was making an argument for them, their blueprint is not to build the biggest, prettiest home on the block. They're the one in the A-frame down there on the corner that's totally watertight. The heat works, the air conditioning works, and you can park your car in the garage. And it's going to be that way every single year because they know that snowstorm is coming in the month of November, and they're going to be ready for it with a sound run game, with an efficient defense that can put pressure on the quarterback, and then they can cover on the outside. Now, they may not run the table. I don't know. But all I'm saying is that they're doing right now what they need to, and they certainly need to get better doing it, to your point.
Joel, outstanding metaphor. We like where you went there. We will see you this Saturday from Stillwater. What a great game. Oklahoma and Oklahoma State with Gus Johnson and Jenny Taft, 4 Eastern time. Enjoy the Bedlam, and thanks for joining us.
I'm sure Gus will be in his snow cap and his coat. I don't know. I might be in a tank top.